astronauts, it's Brandy and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. This week's reading is, what is my unique charm that draws people to me? I asked and you astronauts answered on the community tab poll, and this was one of the popular choices. So if you want to be a part of being able to choose what reading is going to happen, maybe not next, but will happen at some point, feel free to check out the community tab and drop your vote. And if you're not already an astronaut, become an astronaut. Subscribe, like, comment, just come back. We love to hear you. We love to see you. And I love making videos for you all. Now, before we get into these lovely five pals, I do want to let you know that I have an Instagram, which I post some astrology insights on. I do need to update that. And then I also have my TikTok. So if you want to get to know me a little bit more on a personal level, you can check out that TikTok. And also I go live every weekend. It'll be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So if you would like to ask me a question, all you have to do is check out that community tab and see when I will be going live. I post that at least by Tuesday night, the time that I will go live. Now let us jump into these piles. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4, and pile number 5. So let's not waste any more time and just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey pal number 1, let's get started on your reading. We have the 8 of Wands, the King of Pentacles, the 4 of Cups. We have what you seek is seeking you. We have the 10 of Wands and the 9 of Wands. And additionally, we have the 5th house. All right. So the first thing that comes up to me when I see what is seeking you is that your unique charm is obviously related to your ability to manifest your dreams into reality is when I get what you seek is seeking you. And honestly, I really think people feel like when you put your mind to something, you are somebody who doesn't stop until you achieve that goal, especially when we have this 9 and 10 of Wands supporting that aspect of your personality within this reading bout. Number 1, you are a go-getter. We have all of these wands, and I love how we have like them sort of like in order in a way, like the 8 of Wands, the 9 of Wands, the 10 of Wands. It's just like go, go, go. Don't stop until you are able to get what you want. And it's really comes through for people because it's like very motivating for them, and in a way it can possibly be inspiring, because when we have the fifth house, I'm stumbling over my words. When we have the 5th house, it's related to matters of the heart, and matters of the heart can be things that are inspiring to you and things that are passionate, and not just to you, but to other people. And so it's almost like people are seeing you in this all like fashion. Like the 5th house is related to celebrity and fame in a way. It's not like the main significator, but it is something that can be related to that. Really more 8th house things can be more fame related, but we'll get into that some other day. But essentially, people see you as this like inspirational person who is able to go after what they want and to achieve that. And you are somebody who doesn't leave sort of projects or tasks or things that you are working on unfinished. Like you are someone who makes sure that you wrap things up. You don't have any loose ends. You tie things up, because we have the 8 of Wands. That's about completion. And especially when we have the 10 of Wands as well supporting that. That is another card connected to completion. So people see your hard work. People see your efforts. People see that you're somebody who is dedicated. And that to them is just very, very charming, because they admire that dedication. They admire that blood, sweat, and tears that you are giving. They admire that you are somebody who keeps going despite having so many obstacles, or even if you have any setbacks. It reminds me of like that Cardi B song where she says, knock me down 9 times and I'll get up 10. Like, so that's kind of like the energy that people are seeing from you. And they're like, wow, this person is very, very much a hard worker and somebody who is just like a boss, like giving like very boss energy, which I'm guessing this is why we have this King of Pentacles here to sort of like clarify that and reinforce that for this reading, because you really do give off cross somebody who is focused, somebody who is dedicated, somebody who is driven, someone who is passionate, someone who can really shine through, someone who has a vision and acts on that vision, someone who just, you don't let anything distract you from your goals, because you keep this sort of frame of mind that says what you are seeking is seeking you. And I absolutely love that for you, pal, number one. The fact that you are able to keep in mind the overall big picture is not always easy. It's not always easy to keep in mind that you are somebody who, even though you may have like these pitfalls and these moments where you are tired, where you're exhausted, where you may be unmotivated and stressed, you are still able to rise above that and rise to the occasion. And what we're looking at here is the fact that you are somebody who just knows their calling, who just knows what they're destined for, who knows what they're passionate in. There are a lot of people, and this is not a diss or anything to be like, oh my God, you're better than these people or something like that. But there are a lot of people who can be a little bit directionless, and you're not one of those people. You have such an intense focus on the things that you want and want to gain out of life. It's almost in a way like you have this innate confidence within you that allows you to keep going despite the experiences that you have. Because like I said before, you understand that what it is that you are seeking is meant for you. If you are meant to attract fame and fortune, then it is seeking you as well. If you are meant to, have a beautiful family and a nice home, then that is what is meant for you. And you know that in your heart, so you keep going despite anything. And not only that, but you are able to remain authentic throughout the process. And so it just feels like things are unfolding for you in that direction. You keep this frame of mind that despite anything that happens to you, even if it's a circumstance that is unpleasant, you know that that circumstance can potentially lead you to something great. And I don't know if this is called like a Chinese story or something like that. It's like the saying that basically, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And I think I've talked about this before, and it's probably like all over the internet or something like that. But essentially, it's kind of like this story where this person breaks their leg, right? And everyone's like, oh man, I'm so sorry that your son broke their leg, da 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 da. And they're just like, is it bad? Are you sorry? Is it really like a terrible thing? We'll see, right? And then because they broke their leg, they were able not to be drafted to go to war. And so that broken leg led them to not putting their life at risk and going to war. So certain things like that. So is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? We don't know yet. But you keep in mind that you're like, you know what? I don't care if this bad thing happens to me. I don't care if I spilled coffee on myself today. I don't care if, I got a splinter or, broke my leg or something. Or maybe I'm out of work for a period of time. Or maybe I go through a breakup. Or maybe, somebody I like doesn't like me back. They reject me. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? You don't know yet. You just know that the things that are meant for you are also seeking you. And so in your mind, you're like, this could actually potentially lead me to something positive. So I think having this sort of amplified sense of positivity, because the wands can be that here. Sometimes they can be sort of like, what do they call it? toxic positivity. Sometimes it can be that, but I don't think that's that, because this reading is about your unique charm. So obviously people don't find toxicity charming, right? So this is like you being able to be positive and super positive despite the circumstances that you are in. Okay, you understand that opportunities will flow to you, that if you don't get this one opportunity, then the next one is coming for you. And like I said, because you have this sense of, I wouldn't say ease, but in a way people feel like you have an ease in terms of like your state of mind. They don't think the things that you're doing is easy, but they feel like because you have this mindset that the things that you are seeking are coming towards you, they feel like, wow, like this person is so inspiring, that they believe so wholeheartedly in themselves, in their future, and what is meant for them. That is something that people just love that about you. They find it charming. They find it great that you are able to keep that alive. And then sometimes with the fifth house, I can often get like this combination of cards can kind of represent somebody keeping like childhood dreams alive in a way. So for some of you, I'm going to say at least 40% of you, this is representing like you've had like some sort of goal, maybe even since childhood, that you have been pushing yourself to achieve. Like this could be a simple goal. Maybe you've just been like, okay, when I'm a kid, I decided that I wanted to, I'm just trying to think of, kids think of like lots of things. But let's say you, as a child, you say, I wanted to be a teacher, or I wanted to be an ice skater or something like that. And instead of just like giving up and on that dream that you had as a child, you keep going. Now you may have edited the dream. Instead of saying, okay, I won't be an ice skater, maybe I'll be like a teacher of people who are trying to learn to ice skate. Maybe you like, maybe miss the, what's the word? I can't think of it. Like the timeline to be an ice skater or something like that. I know it takes a lot of like discipline. It's kind of like ballet where you have to like get it at a young age or something like that to get to a professional level. But essentially, maybe you might have missed a timeline on that. Doesn't matter, because you keep going. You say, well, how can I still be involved in this area? So people see that you keep going despite those things, and people love that, and they find it charming, and they like inspiring, and they want to be like you in that way. They're like, I want to have that confidence that you have. I want to have that sense of abundance that you have. And then not only that, but will people find charming about you is the fact that you can be so reliable and so stable. With the 10 of Wands, the 9 of Wands, those are pretty steady cards in terms of like, I'm going to keep fighting, keep going on, especially with the King of Pentacles there to reinforce that energy. King of Pentacles is definitely somebody who you can always rely on to show up on time, to do their duty, to put in the effort, to put in the work, and to remain grounded and focused, and to have like a practical state of mind. So even if you have these big dreams and these big ambitions, you're not saying, okay, I want to go from, like, let's say you were a content creator, and you're not saying, okay, I want to go from one follower to 1 million in 2 weeks. And it's like, okay, maybe that's possible for some people, but for most people, it's going to take time to process and build towards things. So you have a practical state of mind on how you want to set your goals and how you want to build things, so things can be streamlined in a manner that makes sense and that's achievable. And people love that about you. They love that you don't get carried away in ideals. You have a sense of grounding in reality, and you are able to focus and achieve those things because of that groundedness. And then also when we have this, what I'm seeking is seeking me, as well, like that type of energy, this can represent attracting abundance as well. Being someone who is saying, okay, I'm seeking a stable job, I'm seeking more income, I'm seeking a raise, I'm seeking to be a millionaire, whatever goal that you have that is in your mind, it's coming towards you as well, because you are also taking practical steps towards it. You are making sure you're saving your money. You are making sure that you are investing. You're making sure that you are having the qualifications that you need to get that good job, to get that promotion. You are advocating for yourself. You are putting in that strong work ethic. You are somebody who is making sure that you are the leader of your life, and you take control, and you take responsibility, and you take accountability. That is something that is also people are seeing when it comes to what is charming about you. 100%. And then what also you can see with these cards is when we have a lot of wands energy, a lot of wands can represent like attractiveness as well, because it can represent kind of like excitedness, excitability in terms of like feelings. And so what's charming about you could also be, you know, your physical nature. And I definitely want to say that when it comes to the King of Pentacles. Though I mainly see the King of Pentacles to be someone who like pours a lot of energy and takes time to themselves, they may not be like always the beauty standard all the time. Not to say that you're not or anything like that, but I just want to give a larger picture of everything that it can represent. I'm not saying that you guys aren't beautiful. I think that these cards are pointing to you being very attractive. But I do want to give like a full picture to say that it also not only represents the physical like attractiveness, but it also represents putting the effort into your attractiveness, whether that is making sure your nails aren't dirty, making sure that you are someone who smells good, making sure that you're someone who, you know, takes care of their skin. Like these are the things like the King of Pentacles does and puts effort into. So I definitely want to mention that, and that is part of your charm as well. People are like, oh wow, this person has a very beautiful way of adorning themselves, dressing themselves. This person always has some amazing shoes, and I love seeing what they're going to wear next. I mean, look how colorful the King of Pentacles wardrobe is. He has like all these fruits and stuff on his wardrobe. He's like growing. It looks like he's almost growing fruits in a way off of his clothing. So just a very unique sense of presentation. And it's Pentacles are all about this 5 senses. So like smell, taste, you know, feel, things like that. They're like, oh, this person always has the most beautiful wardrobe. This person always smells the best. This person has such beautiful hair, like beautiful skin or something like that. So it's also about being presentable, even and connected to just the physical, like, oh, you may have like a beautiful face or a beautiful body or something like that. It represents all of these things when we have this combination of cards. So that is something that's also pertaining to your unique charm and allure, especially feeling like that you are somebody who doesn't seek attention as well. Especially, I want to mention that because we have this card where it says what you are seeking is also seeking you. So even if you're somebody who wants some attention, which I think is normal, I think most people want some attention at some point. Depending on how much, it's going to depend on the person, but everybody wants some attention at some point. And you may feel like, oh my gosh, I would love some compliments today. And you may be thinking that to yourself in your head. And then somebody comes up to you and they're just like, oh my gosh, your hair looks so beautiful. I love the way that you did your makeup, or I love the your sweater. Like, where'd you get it from? Like, people may be coming after you with these compliments because when we have wands, we have complimentary energy here. So if you're seeking those compliments, they are coming towards you. And it may even be without even trying. In a way, you're just naturally being yourself. And because you have this inner calm that you like to carry yourself with, because you have this sort of strength that of presence and natural confidence, or it may not be natural, but you appear confident to other people. People are giving you these compliments because they feel like they could be at ease with you, and that you are somebody who is going to be receptive towards these positive words, is what I'm seeing here. Now, with the Four of Cups, it can represent somebody who, how I said before, how you're not like putting in a lot of energy to be like, look at me, look at me, look at me, like it naturally happens. Because the Four of Cups is somebody who, though they are sort of contemplating and reflecting on certain opportunities that they want, or certain energies that they want to bring into their life, they aren't necessarily super adamant about it. And thus, people feel like you're somebody who just allows things to flow in your direction. It's kind of exactly what I was saying before. It's kind of like this effortless energy that comes your way. So that's the compliments. That's the overall feeling like coming across very relaxed, coming across as somebody who is, though you're putting in a lot of effort, people don't feel like you are coming across very high strung in a way. Which can happen sometimes if people are very stressed, right? Well, you don't come across as this person who's just like highly stressed out. People feel like you are somebody who just naturally exudes confidence, naturally exudes grace, naturally is like very easy to approach. So you have a very approachable energy. That's what the Four of Cups is getting at. So you're somebody who can be charming in the sense that you don't come across as like you're trying really hard. And that's something important to note, because that will make people feel more comfortable, around you, is what I'm getting here. But it's just like a quiet confidence. I think that's the main word I was looking for while I was blabbing on. Quiet confidence for you, pile number 1. And in a way, it's like you are able to intrigue people because you aren't somebody who may be particularly chatty. We don't have a lot of swords in this card, in this reading, and swords represent communication. The Eight of Wands can be communication as well, but you know, it's not always the main card when it comes to communication. Swords are the main card. They're like, we're talking, we're expressing ourselves, etc. So you may be somebody who can be a little bit more reserved. And I think all of the cards are kind of saying that, even with the King of Pentacles by itself, and these, what you seek is also seeking you. That would also imply that you are a little bit more laid back. And I think that's something that is very much charming in a way. You're not easily impressed by things that are superficial or distracted by things that can be very shiny in a way. You are so focused on achieving your purpose and goals and working on things and pouring your energy to things that are passionate about, and also having fun, because the fifth house connects to excitement and fun and relaxation. One thing that I see about the Four of Cups and the fifth house is they both relate to having downtime. They relate to having a sense of ease about them. They relate to taking the time to stop and reflect and think about things. Like, both of these cards can represent a sense of inactivity, even though we have a lot of effort here. So it shows me that you have a balance. You're somebody who will balance work and play. You're somebody who allows yourself to take a vacation. You're somebody who has a lot of emotional depth, but you come across very calm in the way that you are expressing yourself to other people, despite, like I said, all of the, chaos that you may even be going to. Being someone who is not easily distracted from their goals, but also being someone who is willing to, take a pause and not be in work mode all the time, is like making you more relatable and making you come across as somebody who is very charming in that way. So I do want to say that. And also, sometimes the Four of Cups can represent that some people have to like earn your interest in a way, which can be charming to some people because they may feel like they want to put in more effort to impress you, which, that has to do with attachment styles in a way. So having this sort of like meditative presence makes people want to connect with you on things that are deeper. So they're like, okay, this person doesn't seem to care about the latest Ariana Grande album. Maybe I'll talk to them about, social justice. So people might want to connect to you on a deeper level because of that. So I want to keep that in mind. One thing that I see here is, I think I briefly mentioned, is the authenticity. When we have the fifth house, that's representing somebody who is being themselves, who is separating themselves and being like an individual and separating and making themselves apart. Like, think of somebody like in Vedic astrology, there is a placement, Puva Falguni, and it is at the heart of Leo. And Puva Falguni, one thing that they always do is they try to differentiate themselves from others. They try to let people know that they are unique, that they're individual. Think about Beyonce's last album where she's like, I'm an alien superstar. There's nobody like me, right? And she's a very Puva Falguni placement. And so what I'm getting at here is that you are somebody who comes across very genuine, different, and who is unique about expressing themselves. So having that sense of authenticity is what people will like about you. And also there may be an air of mystery with this Four of Cups energy. Like you don't really give away too much. So that's something I just want to keep in mind when it comes to this. And also when we have the 5th house, something that is very charming about you, which I probably should have even led with this because I see all these wands here, but is the fact that you may have some unique hobbies or unique interests that pique people's interest, and they're just like, oh, I didn't know you were into that. Like I didn't know you were somebody who makes sculpture paintings. I didn't know you were somebody who creates their own t-shirts. I didn't know you were somebody who liked to bake or cook. Like these things are what people find charming about you. The fact that you have these unique interests. You may not be somebody, and this is not me making any judgments on people who do this. I just want to be clear when I say that because I don't want people to feel like, oh, if they do this, then there's something wrong with them. But you're not someone who maybe just comes home and watches Netflix. You probably have some sort of hobby that you are interested in, and that could be anything from book reading. Not to say Netflix can't be your hobby, but if it is, then the way that you go about it, you may have watched a lot of content. So that would be something that people may be like, wow, you've seen like every show. And that people would find that charming because then they can come to you for like recommendations on what to watch and what's interesting. So something along the lines of that. I think we've already mentioned kind of like the unique style that is coming forth with this, since we were talking about things that are like creative and how you're expressing yourself. Being able to have like a cultivated like knowledge in a certain area is definitely something that I want to note, because the 5th house also represents education. And then even like your hobbies could be, something that is related to knowledge base. Like some people's hobbies, like they may listen to a lot of science podcasts or watch like a lot of the History Channel. And so having a strong knowledge base, and that could even be through your hobbies, is something that people will find charming about you. I knew someone who like had a very deep amount of knowledge of food, and they like to study food, and they were into food science, and that's something that is unique to them and makes something interesting and charming about them. So something along the lines of your hobbies, your interests, and your knowledge base is what's bringing people in. You may know a lot about some sort of niche subject. Heck, you may know a lot about a lot of different subjects with this 8 of Wands here. Definitely indicates having some sort of strong sense of intellect. And I think the last thing I want to mention is, because we have so many wands with this reading, is that you may have like a very open and adventurous spirit, meaning that you are willing to try different things. The 5th house can represent things that are very experimental, and things along the lines of the wands can also be very experimental nature, especially the 8 of Wands, because it's going in a lot of different directions and everything's like flying everywhere. And so this can represent being someone who is like open to just trying different things or going different places and wanting to travel to different locations. Like on this card here, we have NYC on the little sticker. And so it can represent that you are charming in the fact that you're somebody who may have a lot of different knowledges of different cultures or just into different places. And people are like, oh my gosh, you've been to Albania? What's Albania like? Like, tell me all about Albania, because I've never met anyone who's been there or who's from there. So having that sense of travel and seeing the world and a sense of adventure or fearlessness about when it comes to exploring and trying different things is really charming to people and is really drawing them in. And that is what I want to say for you, pal number 1. Hopefully that resonates. If not, feel free to choose another pal. But yeah, definitely tell me if it resonates below. I love hearing and seeing your comments and reading it and being able to interact with you all. So let me know. And if this pal doesn't resonate, as I was saying before, feel free to choose a different pal, or you could choose a different reader. Maybe I'm not the one for you, but either way, I'm very happy you stopped by, and I will see you next time. Au revoir. Hey pal number 2, let's get started on your unique charm. Now we have the 2 of Cups, the 10 of Swords, the 3 of Swords, we have 1111. We have the Knight of Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles, and the 4th house. Your unique charm. So, right away, my first thought is you have this ability to understand people's suffering, to understand their vulnerabilities, their weaknesses, and when they are going through a hard time. I'm guessing that's just empathy. So you have a lot of empathy, pile number 2. You are able to relate to others' struggles. You are allowing other people to be vulnerable, and you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable with these people. I'm not going to say with every single person, because with the 10 of Swords and the 3 of Swords, these can indicate trust issues, but at the same time, like, you may see somebody who may going through a similar struggle than you, as you, or if you've already been through this struggle and you've moved past it, you may look at their situation and say, oh my gosh, I remember when I used to have to deal with that. For example, me personally, I have dyslexia. So just recently, I saw someone recount their story about dyslexia, and I personally was just like, oh wow, like, I know that must have been tough to deal with, because when I was growing up, there was personally no really real tools to deal with dyslexia and things like that. So just being able to express that empathy and how I understand that struggle and that situation and things along the lines of that. Now, it may be something completely different for you, pal number 2, but I'm just giving an example of how you are being understanding towards other people. You're being empathetic towards others. You are listening to other people. When we have this 10 of Swords energy, a lot of it has to do with taking in the information from other people. You could look at the swords on this person's back as just like a lot of verbal communication at this person. Obviously, the 10 of Swords can be seen as such like a very dark, dramatic, and suffering card. But in terms of communication, it can just mean having a lot of communication thrown your way. And thus, it means that you may be put in a position where you are constantly listening to the struggles of other people. Now, maybe in some cases it can feel like trauma dumping, but then in other cases you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, this person needs someone to talk to. This person needs somebody to listen. This person has gone through a lot. And thus, you're able to be open enough to hear this information and to take it in, and to, I guess the word is just be very understanding and open to the suffering that they have gone through, pal number 2. People really appreciate your level of empathy and care and emotional intelligence. That really stands out to them. And it kind of makes me go into this 1111 energy, because 1111 is a master number, and it is known to be highly empathetic, at least, you know, in its highest form. Obviously, not every person who is an 11 is highly empathetic, but in its most positive form, it is a highly empathetic energy for the 11 card. It represents somebody who has gone through a lot of different challenges, and then who is able to relay their story to others, or to, as I just mentioned, empathize with others and their struggles. So it's a very cohesive reading that we have here so far. People are really feeling and being drawn in by the fact that you are being open with challenges you have gone through, and at the same time you're open to listen to others when it comes to the challenges that they have gone through. Another thing that we can see from this 1111 card is that despite all the heaviness and the struggles and the strife that you have faced, it represents being somebody who's very spiritual and dedicated to faith, or dedicated to understanding that there is something beyond. There's something more. Like, you don't have to stay in this place of agonizing pain. The thing about the 1111 energy is it's about being able to move through challenges, but these challenges come to an end, like these 10 card energies, because 10s represent endings. So what's drawing people in is that you don't stay stuck in this energy where you are constantly suffering, or where you may feel like you're a victim, or things along the lines of that. Not to say that you haven't been a victim in situations, but you don't like to stay in that headspace. You like to move to a place where you can heal, where you can grow, and a place where you can feel like there's something more and something beyond and out there for you. So you have a strong sense of faith and spiritual guidance we have here for you. That's something that I just want to put out there. Like, you in your mind feel like, okay, life kind of goes on, even though you've been through a lot, and you recognize these people are coming to you and they're sharing their stories. You are someone who understands this is the end all be all. You don't have to stay in this place of suffering. Life can be beautiful. Life can be harmonious. Life can be peaceful. And so I think that is something that people find very charming about you, that despite all the setbacks and the heartaches and the suffering that you have faced, pal number 2, you keep going. I mean, the Knight of Pentacles is definitely that I'm stringing along, I'm keeping going card. Like, I got my head in the game. Same with the Page of Pentacles. It's almost like you treat things like it's a new dawn, it's a new day. Like, you kind of go through life and say, that chapter's over, that's done. And I think it makes sense with this 1111 card, because we have these books on the card, and each book, it has a story. I mean, it's all in cursive here. I'm not specifically looking at it. It just says angel numbers, dreaming symbols, something wisdom. Like, you recognize that each and every part of your journey is a book, is a chapter, and it teaches you something. And it allows you to keep going and move through the world and accept and face new challenges. And you don't treat it as if it's just an ongoing narrative of, I guess, treachery and suffering and depression. Like, you treat it as like, well, that chapter's over. I've learned from that. And now I'm moving on to this new phase, this new day. You know, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. That's your energy. And that's really drawing people in. And I think something else I want to mention about this card is that when we have all of these books here, books kind of relate to learning and growing and intelligence, kind of like how I read the chapters and how you kept growing. This gives me a sense that you do have a heightened sense of self-awareness with this. And I believe 1111 energy actually does deal with having, you know, a heightened awareness. And I think that also represents with the 10 of Swords energy, because 10s can be a lot of mental activity. So you are aware of how you come across to people. And you're also aware of, you know, what patterns you may have, what things that you can possibly teach others, and what things others could teach you, or where you can improve. You know, you're very honest and understanding with yourself when it comes to your strengths and weaknesses. And I think people really are drawn in by the fact that you do have that level of self-awareness. Now, don't get me wrong, they may not realize it immediately at first, because we have this Knight of Pentacles and this Page of Pentacles energy, and people kind of look at those cards as being very like, you know, come here, youngster, right? But but honestly, with the 10 of Swords here, the 10 of Swords can represent having a lot of intellect, especially when it comes to emotional intelligence, especially since it's following the 2 of Swords here. So you do have a lot of emotional intelligence, not necessarily saying that you always act on it all the time, but I think once people are kind of like in your space, after they are really having these intimate, vulnerable conversations with you, they start to realize just how much emotional intelligence and how deep your emotional landscape can be, is what I want to say there. Another thing with this this Page of Pentacles and this Knight of Pentacles, I was always going to say Page of Cups, but this Knight of Pentacles and this Page of Pentacles energy represents newness. As I said, you know, it's that very much like youngster type of new dawn, new day energy coming in. And then 1111 also represents innovation. So something that is drawing people in to pull away from like this, the empathy and the vulnerabilities and all of those things. Not that they're not important, but what's drawing people into you is the fact that you can be very unique and innovative in the way that you approach things. I just want to say that because people feel like you are somebody who is bringing in a fresh new perspective, someone who has a very practical way of approaching situations, someone who possibly even has a maybe unconventional perspective at times, or at least you come in and you bring a sense of realness and sensibility. People notice that you come across very genuine, and you don't try to overcomplicate matters. Like, they feel like with you, what they see is what they get for the most part. minus the depth of your emotional landscape, I don't think they really fully realize that until after they have those conversations with you. But for the most part, they feel like there's no hidden agenda with you. They don't feel like you're somebody who is coming at things from a different angle or being sneaky or being manipulative or things along the lines of that. They feel like you're just a very upfront person. And that is something that is, I guess, maybe a little bit rarer to find, because you're just this, like, I don't want to say average every day, but you're more so like just, you come across very like normal, like very much like, okay, I don't have to be on my guard around this person. I don't think this person's out to get me. They don't feel like that sense of animosity or, like I said, manipulation coming from you. You know, there's a sense of fairness and balance and structure and just ease when they're talking to you, and that's really drawing people in, is what I'm seeing here. Also, when we have this Page of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles, I know the Knight of Pentacles can be a workaholic, but there's this playful energy when it comes to Pages and Knights. You know, Pages and Knights are those cards I get where they just want to, they want to work hard, but they want to play hard too. The Page of Pentacles especially wants to play hard. They want to have fun. They want to go out and explore. They want to do things that excite them. They want to be able to relax and enjoy their environment and the things around them, which kind of brings me into this fourth house energy, because I also get the fourth house to represent, not minusing the emotional landscape. We can loop back to that later, but I always get the fourth house to represent just being like this comforting everyday type of energy, which kind of goes into what I said earlier, where I said people can feel like they can relax about you. Like they don't feel like you are their enemy or their op or out to get them. Like the fourth house is very much like, I'm at home, I'm at peace, I'm in my abode, like I can be myself. It reminds me of that saying, like, dance when like no one's watching. Like the fourth house is the place where no one's watching. It's the darkest part of the chart. And people feel like they can be completely open and honest in their true selves around you because you don't give across this judgmental energy. And not only that, but like I said before, you're coming from a place that feels very comforting, that feels like almost a little bit like at home, where they feel like, oh my gosh, this person gets me. This person understands me. This person feels so familiar. This person feels very comforting to be around. They make me feel like I'm being taken care of. They make me feel like I'm nurtured. Things along the lines of that. Like you almost in a way feel like close, like family in a way. I'm not going to say maybe that for everyone, but there is a sense of familiarity when it comes to you. All right, that is just something I want to say. People feel that way around you. Another thing that I want to talk about is the fact that we have this fourth house energy and we have the Knight of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles. So Pentacles relate to substances and things that you put in your body. And obviously the fourth house relates to, you know, that home cooked meal. So people may feel like maybe if you're somebody who brings in like food or something to work, people find that to be very charming and they really like that about you. And it doesn't have to be from home. Sometimes people just bring in things like donuts and things like that to work, or even around friends or family, or they invite them over and they cook for them or something along the lines of that. But that's something that really draws people in, that makes them feel like, oh wow, I really like this person. They like to cook for things. They like to make me things. They like to bring me food, or things along the lines of that. And even if you don't like to bring people food, people may even like that you make your own food. So if you're somebody who does a lot of cooking and things along the lines of that, that's really drawing people in. They're like, oh my gosh, you cook? I didn't know that, like, about you, or something along the lines of that. Like, or you went to a cooking class? Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Or you know a lot about this food and that food. Or you are somebody who goes to a lot of different restaurants and you can tell people about great places to eat and what that food is like and what this thing is like. You know, people are very interested and captivated about, you know, the practical advice you may give around food, tips you may give around food, or things along the lines of relating to food. Okay, just want to throw that out there. I don't want to keep blabbing on about it and going on, but generally that's something I want to bring up when I see these cards together. Something about your ability to either cook, make food, bake, or have really good suggestions and something along the lines of that. is something that's drawing people in. You may even be one of those people who like on Yelp that have like, what do you call it? I used to be on the list too, where if you have enough reviews, like you become like a top Yelper, and sometimes restaurants will even like invite you to eat there for free, whatever. But like things along the lines of that, like your opinion matters when it comes to subjects like that. It doesn't have to even be food. It could be anything that is material that you can touch, taste, smell, things along the lines of that. Anything that you have like a special skill in. So Pentacles could be like, oh, I play the clarinet. And that would be a unique charm that draws people in. Another thing that this kind of rules is something along the lines of being able to like sing or use your voice, because we have Pentacles here, and Pentacles obviously deal with the vocal cords and things along the lines of that. So that would be a very charming thing to draw people into you. Pile number 2. I just want to make that clear. But back to what I was saying, the 4th house also connects to that level of emotional security, attachment, and empathy. And also sometimes to some degree, 4th house can represent savings and money. Not to say that your money draws people in, but people may feel like you have a very practical mindset when it comes to income, jobs, making money. And that can be part of somebody's charm, right? If they have like a cool job, you're obviously going to be drawn in, right? So people may feel like your job is really cool, or they may feel like something along the lines of like maybe what you do is interesting, maybe your job title is interesting, maybe the way that you make your money is interesting, or even the way that you are investing your money. It depends like what kind of conversations you're having with people, right? So that could draw people in as well. Like if you just start talking about, you know, savings bonds and something along the lines of that, like it depends on who you are as a person. If those are things that you talk about quite often, then yeah, that's drawing people into you. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this thing about that tax or this tax. You know, if you're an accountant and you're watching this, then what's drawing people in is that you give like quite solid financial advice that may be new to people. And that's something to be noted. And then the last thing that I think, well, one of the last things I think I want to mention when it comes to people is feeling secure within yourself. Because the 4th house deals with where we feel at home. So it can also deal with how you feel secure within yourself, your emotional state. And so it's drawing people in, not to say that you are the most secure person, but when we have the Knight of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles, those are the beginnings of building foundations of someone who has like, who values themselves, somebody who's beginning to feel confident, who's beginning to push themselves and put themselves out there, who's beginning to take chances and risk and getting to know themselves. That type of Pentacle energy is all about feeling stability and security. And so people feel like the way that you are coming out there in the world, they don't really notice when you are too nervous, or at least most people don't. Most people don't really see that. They kind of see you as somebody who is coming across as confident even if they don't know everything, or you're trying to do your best to ensure that you are being true to yourself, being genuine, but then also being someone who truly believes in what it is that you're doing, how you're expressing yourself, and things along the lines of that. So people see some confidence within you, and that's drawing them into you. They're like, wow, this person is really confident in their decisions. This person is confident in how they move in the world and what they think and the path that they've chosen, especially with this 1111, because that's about choosing your own path. So people feel like you're very confident in doing your own thing and choosing your own path, or at least you're willing to fight for it. Like if you're not totally confident, you're still willing to go for it anyway and take that risk and take that chance. And people like that. They're like, wow, this person's really different in the fact that they are not moving with the crowd and going their own way when it comes to their decisions, especially with this 1111 energy. And I think what also will draw people in for you is you may come across as somebody who can give a good amount of compliments. With the Knight of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles, that's like compliments on things that people may work towards, or compliments on things people may buy, or how they like adorn themselves. So people may feel like oh my gosh, this person just complimented my ring. They just complimented my hair. They just complimented my pants. They like that about you. They like the compliments that you are giving them. They really enjoy that. It touches their heart, pulls at their little heartstrings, even if they don't fully express it all the time. And they just feel like, oh my gosh, that was such a nice thing to say. That was such a kind thing to say. And I also want to say something about your confidence is I feel like your confidence is inspiring others and making them feel like they can go out there and be confident within themselves. And that's really drawing people in. Like I'm saying, even if you don't see yourself as the most confident person, people are viewing you as somebody who may have more confidence than the average. Okay. I do want to say that. And then lastly, the thing that I want to note, as I mentioned before, the voice can be very pleasant and nice for people to hear. So people may really enjoy hearing and listening to your voice is what I'm viewing here the most. Yeah, the voice is something that's really drawing people in. Lastly, you come across as somebody who doesn't give away all of your business and exposes yourself. Not to say if you do that and you are so super open and honest that it's terrible, but what's drawing people into you is that you don't give away that much. That you give just enough that people feel like you're not going to share their business either, and thus you become somebody that people can ultimately trust. But I really do feel like people feel this sense of closeness to you. Like you're somebody who has their best interests at heart and can keep their secrets and who will take care of them emotionally. Like you create a safe space for people. So that is what I want to say for you, pal. Number 2, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if that resonates down below. Like leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I hope to see you next time. Till then, au revoir. Hey pal, number 3, let's get started on your unique charm. We have the 3 of Wands, the Page of Cups. We have Go Your Own Way. We have Judgment. We have the 5 of Pentacles. And we have the 4 of Pentacles and Uranus. All right. So, what we have here, the first thing that pops out to me is the fact that we have Go Your Own Way and we have Uranus. So, when I see this, it looks to me like you're somebody who is very much unconventional, very much someone who likes to pave their own path, someone who can be very innovative, very creative, just very spontaneous in a way. This is the opposite of groupthink. This is let me think for myself. This is energy where you have someone who is a leader in their own right, meaning you're somebody who treads their own path, and you don't try to live up to the expectations that other people set for you. You go by your own set of rules. So that's something that people will find very, very charming about you, pile number 3. They think that the fact that you are someone who does things their own way, who's very different, who thinks outside the box, who may even have controversial opinions or thoughts along the lines of that, because I have seen Uranus to represent someone who may believe in conspiracy theories or someone who may just have an unorthodox belief system is what I've seen with people who have strong Uranus characteristics. And then there's also that sense of like, how can we innovate and improve upon something, or how can we do things differently so that we aren't being stuck in the same cycle, because Uranus wants to break free of cycles. It's like this freedom planet of, I don't want to be bound by this, and I want to pull away from this thing and that thing and along the lines of that. And I don't want to be attached too strongly to one thing. I want to be able to have this sort of flighty type of energy is what I'm getting here. So keep that in mind with this type of energy, that people find that very, very charming about you. The fact that, you know, you can't be pinned down. The fact that maybe one way you act a certain way and then the next day you act another way. And I don't mean it in a way that's very like unsettling, but just in a way of like, okay, this person's a little quirky today. This person's like in a jokey mood today. This person's like in a place where they just want to, you know, daydream. Like it's a good type of offbeat energy, you know, so people like that about you. Another thing that we see here is that we have the Three of Wands, and that's very similar to Uranus in a way because it represents being someone who is on their own creative path. It also represents being able to, you know, look to the future and doing things differently. So there's a really strong stress on being able to do things your way and do things differently. And I guess your uniqueness is really in the fact that overall you do seem to be a person that people may have like trouble putting their finger on, where they may feel like you've always got some unique story or experience or encounter that you have gone through. You always have maybe your own unique style and presentation, the way of dressing. You come out with very much like bold opinions and thoughts that people may not have thought of, or may even just be countercultural to the standard belief systems, which could be anything. You know, we have a lot of things like, I'll just use gender norms, like traditional gender norms, something on the lines of like men wear suits and women wear dresses. So something unconventional would be like women wearing suits. So this would be like a woman wearing a suit. Like if you were that type of person, you say, hey, I'm a woman, I can wear a suit if I want to, right? So that would be something that would be challenging the social norm. So there may be some things like that. It may not be like, it could be subtle like that. It could be extreme in certain cases, whatever the case may be. But whatever this pal is, people feel like, okay, I like that you aren't just accepting things for the way that they are, that you're someone who is questioning society and why we do things. So you have a very active mind, and generally that's going to be something that people will find very charming and appealing about you. Definitely have your own style. Like of all the pals, I think this one is the most original when it comes to presentation and style, because the fact that we have Uranus, the Three of Wands, and go your own way is going to be like this triple threat when it comes to, not threat, but triple confirmation when it comes to how you present yourself is very, very unique. You may even talk in a particular way. You may even be someone who is wearing different type of hairstyles, different hair colors. Like you're like, okay, I'm going to try red hair today. I'm going to try, I'm going to do like 3D nail art. I'm going to, I'm trying to think of like unique things. I'm going to have like a cropped trench coat. I'm going to like things along the lines of that. Like it's just like bringing out some sort of unique flavor to how you present yourself is going to really catch people like off guard in a good way. Off guard in a good way that's excitable, because these are things that people like about you. And the fact that you can be so unpredictable is something that is very exciting to them. And there's a lot of playful energy here, because when I have the Three of Wands, yeah, it can represent sort of like patience and waiting around and things like that. But like, what do people like to do when they're waiting for stuff? Like if you're waiting in a doctor's office, you might be scrolling on TikTok, or you might be like playing some game on your phone or something like that. When people are waiting for things, they usually like try to have fun in the meanwhile. So there's this playful energy about you that people are really drawn in by, that they feel like you can be able to relax. You're not taking things, you know, seriously. In fact, I don't think this particular pal is extremely serious. Uranus connects to the Fool, and the Fool is always like this joker, this person up for a venture, this person trying to find a new time, this person trying to find a new time, up for a good time, this person who takes a lot of risk. So people find that it's very charming that you are a bold risk taker. Very, very bold and risk taker in your decision making. I don't know what it is you're doing, pal number 3, but people think it's like incredible and very daring. Maybe you are a risk taker when it comes to like, you know, putting yourself in situations like in DC we have like this flying trapeze thing that you can do and test out, and it's like kind of like you're in the circus for the day. You may be a person who's like, okay, I'm going to, you know, pet a wild, like a lion or something like that. Or maybe you're like, oh my gosh, there's a snake, I'm gonna like capture it or something. That's like very bold and like risky in that way. But it could be also be risky when it comes to like, you know, skydiving. That's a, you know, extreme sort of thing. Risking behavior in terms of like, let me spend, you know, invest my money on this stock or something. That's a risk taker move. Let me invest in like Bitcoin or things along the lines of that. The cryptocurrency, that's very Uranus type of energy. So people may feel like you are willing to take chances on things that are different and innovative, and put yourself out there in that way. They may feel that you're somebody who may be ahead of the curve in terms of like music, because I can represent this to be sort of like hipster vibes. And I know people look at the word hipster as something like negative or sometimes, but really it's just kind of like being a little bit ahead of the curve, being a bit like coming into things before like the popular crowd gets to it, right? Before things become like this, you know, cult sensation or something along the lines of that. So you're always trying to be like ahead of the curve, and people will like that about you. So you may come up to people and say, oh my gosh, have you seen this like cool new show? And they're like, I have never heard of this show in my life. Like, for example, you could have been, this is kind of an old reference, but like The Office, obviously a popular TV show in America, started out in the UK. Me personally, I first saw The Office, the UK version. So when I saw that there was an American version, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe there's an American version now. So that could be sort of like a hipster thing. Like you're on and into stuff like way before it might be popular where you are. Okay, so that's something that people will find charming about you, that you are able to like spot these small things or these things that may be popular in a different area, and then you are introducing it to people before they've even had a chance to like think about it or hear about it, or, you know, any whispers or anything. Another thing that we have when it comes to all of this energy is that I think you could be somebody who can just be someone who's open to different types of people, because you have this sort of like overarching freedom type of energy. People will like that you are accepting of different thoughts and ideas, and that's very charming to them. They're like, oh my gosh, this person, nothing can like phase them. Like you could throw anything at you. That's how they feel. They feel like they can throw any conversation, any thought or whatever that they have out at you, and you are not shocked, you are not shaken, you're not surprised. You're just like, okay, that's interesting. And you'll entertain the thought, you'll entertain like the situation that is being described to you, instead of just being like this sort of reactive energy. We have this Page of Wands, this Page of Cups in reverse. And when the Page of Cups in reverse, it's kind of like, okay, let me just listen to that. I'm just gonna take everything in. I'm not going to, you know, offer my 2 cents off the bat. I just want to hear what you have to say. And people like that about you. They like that you're someone who is open to listening to somebody's wildest circumstance, and instead of being this person who is like, I'm going to enact this judgment, that's not enact this judgment on you, I'm going to listen. Now don't get judgment twisted and thinking that because we have this in this reading, it means that people think you're judgmental. I think in this case, when we have it next to this Page of Cups in reverse, it's kind of representing you taking like a deeper look, because at the end of the day, judgment is about examination. So you really examine the things that people are telling you and that they're saying to you. And instead of, like I said, being very reactive about it, you just kind of take in what they say and try to come at things from a more empathetic perspective, especially when we have this Five of Pentacles here. Five of Pentacles here, one positive thing about it is it connects more to the spiritual world, because it's lacking in financial stability. Okay, so because it's in this place of lacking in financial stability, its focus is more so on making deeper spiritual connections. And so when we have this combination of cards here, it's kind of like you are taking in people for their essence, for their spirit, for their emotional outputs that they are giving to you. And you're just trying to understand what it is that they are trying to communicate to you. Like, you have a deeper level of sensitivity when it comes to your approach to how you are interacting with people. Now, a part of it makes you very like unpredictable, because people may tell you something that is just like really wild and out there, and because your demeanor is a little bit more calm or a little bit more like unfazed, they may even be like shocked about the fact that you are kind of like unfazed by it. So that becomes part of your charm. Your way of challenging social norms and not acting surprised when you hear something that may not be typical is going to draw people in. It's going to draw people in, and it's going to make them be like, oh wow, I can really sort of like express myself around this person a little bit more freely than maybe some other people. It's like you are willing to take the time to understand, is what I want to say. Because when we have this Page of Cups reverse, and we're talking about how positive it is and how charming the Page of Cups reverse can be, it all becomes about like this quirky charm that becomes like unpredictable in their interactions with other people. So having a different perspective, challenging conventions, challenging norms, and not being this reactive type of person. Another thing we have kind of bouncing off of that is the fact that when we have Judgment, we're talking about growth and change and transformation. And so your ability to rise up out of challenging situation and pushing forward and using that difficult time or that transformational time to learn and to grow and develop and to be able to enact those lessons in the present day, that becomes very charming to people, because they feel like you are somebody who isn't stagnant. You're willing to change. You're willing to grow. You're willing to see new perspectives. You're willing to do the emotional work that it takes to transform your life, or even the physical work if it calls for that. But it's really just about the ability to transform and change, and to start refresh, start renewal, and not being afraid to say, okay, I am going to enter a new stage in my life. I'm in a new era. I'm in a new dawn. I'm in a new day. I'm somebody completely different than I was yesterday. People like that about you, that you are not stagnant, that you stay the same. And I think that is also highlighted by the fact that we have this Five of Pentacles, because all fives connect to change and transformation. So all of this change, all of this transformation, all of this unpredictability, that is like your theme for this spread. You're unpredictable, pal, number 3. Like, it's like every other card is like emphasizing the fact that you have this nature about you that is hard to pin down, that is like so free-flowing, that is very much spontaneous and excitable and willing to try different things and going in this area and not being afraid of being an outsider. Because one thing about the Five of Pentacles is they can be perceived as sort of an outsider, kind of like how I was saying before, someone who may challenge conventions, like the woman wearing a suit or something basic like that, or a guy wearing a dress, whatever the case may be. But it's like challenging conventions. It's like stepping outside the norm. It's like being someone who is thoughtful and thinks things through, and who, even if they've gone through tough times, they're like, I can deal it. Whatever you got to deal at me, I can take it, and I'm still going to stand by my convictions, and I'm still going to nourish my spirit. Like, whatever the case may be, it's like, you cannot crush your spirit. They can't break your soul. I'm not to quote Beyonce, but they can't break your soul, essentially, is what we're getting here. You have a lot of emotional resilience to you, and I think it comes across in your interactions with others, and it allows people to feel like they understand you and they can easily connect with you on a deeper level because you are someone who is so true to who you are, such a genuine person, such a person who is truly being like their authentic, bold self, that people feel like they can be themselves around you as well. And not only that, but this does come across with just having that unconventional perspective, having this like wild stories, having this like playful nature, being able to be open and spontaneous. Like, you are so interesting and different. just overall, like you have a lot of different things that you value that maybe a lot of people don't particularly value. Like, it could be anything. I mean, there's so many different niche subjects that people are into. It could be anything from like, I like, I just saw a video about a person who just like takes frogs and raises them and then puts them back in the wild. Like, that's a unique interest and hobby. I mean, how many people can you say you know do that, right? So even having like a unique interest and hobby is something that is going to be appealing. I don't think you're the only pal. There's one other pal that's like this, but you might feel drawn to that one as well. But this, you're a little bit more unconventional, like very, very unconventional. I don't know how to stress that enough. Like, your uniqueness is the fact that you're kind of unique in every single area of life. Like, people don't know what to expect from you. They don't know what you're going to say next. They don't know what you're going to do next. They don't know how you're going to dress next. They don't know where you're going to pop up next. It's like you've lived like a million different lives going on here. It feels like that, especially with this Judgment card here. It's like every year you like transform into something new, and that people are like, I don't know where this person is going to be next, or how they're going to appear next, or what era they're going to be in, how they're going to transform. You're almost like this Lady Gaga type person where you're always like innovating and changing and going through different structures and phases, you know. It's just something along the lines of that. But one thing I do want to point out here is that you do have like this visionary way of thinking that is like people, it's almost like you give people a bigger picture than what they realize things could have been. A lot of people will have this like narrow focus of how their reality is going to play out. Like, go to college, get a job, get married, have kids, go ahead and die, right? But you kind of give people like a broader perspective of what could possibly be happening out there. And people are like, oh, wow, you know, I never really thought of that. Like, I feel like a lot of people may even say that or even think that around you or something like that. And the last thing I want to get into is this Four of Pentacles. Because the Four of Pentacles is so funny because we have all of these risk-taking and changing and transformation and go your own way energy. But then the Four of Pentacles is about like stability and scared to take a chance and being a little bit insecure, something along the lines of that, and being very, very careful. So maybe there's this part of you, this small part of you, through all of this bouncy, unpredictable, mixy type of energy, through all of that, there does appear to be a person like you, do seem to be a person that does have strong boundaries for yourself. I think that's what it's saying. Despite the fact that you may be open to a lot of ideas and interesting perspectives, you still have your own set of like, okay, don't cross my boundaries, you know, don't talk to me this way, I don't appreciate, you know, that type of energy. Like, you still enact those strict boundaries. You're not super free flowing, right? You're like, okay, my house is like this kumbaya shrine type of place, but it is my house. And these are my rules. Like, so you still come in with this iron fist to say, you know, even though I'm very open and accepting and loving and giving, etc. like that, I still am drawing this line in the sand here to tell you that you cannot cross certain things and you need to have certain boundaries with me. And that you can also be reliable in certain areas in your life. So it's like you're not completely free flowing. You may not just quit a job just because it's Tuesday. You're still going to think about things in a practical sense and say, okay, I don't like this job. I'm ready to quit. Let me go find a new job. And so you wait and you apply and then you get that new job. Then you quit the job instead of just like, you know, up and quitting. So there's still a sense of stability and practicality to you, pal number 3. But I feel like you're just like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do this. As I was saying, your energy is just like, I want to travel the world, go on a boat, you know, swing from a vine, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, you still are someone who has those strong boundaries. And not only that, but with the 4 of Pentacles, what's charming about you is you come across very self-assured. Someone who knows what they're doing, someone who believes in themselves, and someone who cannot be convinced of their identity or their purpose by someone else. You're someone who knows who they are to their core. Okay? So that is what I want to say to you, pal number 3. Hopefully this resonates. Let me know if it resonates. Comment down below. If not, feel free to choose another pal, or you could choose another reader. I might not be the one for you. Either way, I'm happy you stopped by, and au revoir. Hey, pal number 4. Let's get started on your reading. We have the 4 of Wands, the Fool. We have the Empress. We have You Belong Here. We have the 2 of Pentacles, the 10 of Pentacles, and Jupiter. Okay. Lots of abundance. So what draws people in is your unique beauty. That is the first thing that pops up to me when I see the Fool in the Empress, because the Fool is connected to Uranus and the Empress is connected to Venus. So something that draws people in is your unique beauty. This is why you charge the battery, pal number 4. So as I was saying, something unique about you that draws people in is your unique beauty. People are fascinated with how you appear and how you come across. You just have an interesting look about you. So I want you to keep that in mind. That is part of your charm, part of your appeal, part of what makes you so unique. Now we want to go into the other factors where you may have a unique way of expressing yourself. Now, when I see this like Uranus-Venus combination, it can represent having like some sort of either like unusual expression in terms of like body language or your voice or something along the lines of how you dress or how you wear your hair, how you do your makeup, how you put in what kind of quirky glasses you wear or something along the lines of that. Any way you choose to express yourself could be that, but it can also be like a creative expression, like through music or art or some sort of craft or skill or talent that you have. There's so many different things out there, like I don't even need to list them all, from skateboarding to riding horses. These are all things that can potentially fall under creative expression in a way. I'm sure there's some sort of creative way of riding a horse that I don't know about. I'm sure riders all have their different techniques, but however you choose to creatively put yourself out there and express yourself, that is what is drawing people into you. It's your whole appeal, body language, voice, sound. Like I said, I mentioned the artistry and crafts. Like these are the things that are drawing people in towards you. Not only that, but we also have this Jupiterian energy. And this Jupiterian energy is very, very giving and very much someone who wants to take care of the people around them. Just being able to nourish and give, especially towards women and children. That is particularly Jupiterian-like nature. Not that Jupiterian people don't give towards, men as well, but they mainly like to give towards women and children. Just notice that about Jupiterian people. But it's just very much like you can be very hospitable. You can be someone who cares and takes care of others, someone who will offer before anyone even asks. You know, I've had many Jupiterian people, friends over the years, and they'll just say, hey, you want some of my lunch, da 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 da, or you want some of this thing, or I have this thing, would you like it, would you like it? Like, they're the type to just offer it without even asking, versus somebody's more Saturnian or something like that, or some other placement. You probably have to ask them first. They'll probably say yes, but they're not as like, let me just give you this, you know what I mean? Like, without you even asking. So people may feel like something like unique and charming about you is your generosity towards people, your ability to anticipate needs without even asking, your ability to give without being asking. And that is a positive quality to have. Like, I love Jupiterian people because they are not only smart and intelligent, which I think is part of your unique appeal. I didn't want to get into that yet, but the fact that they can be so open to, you know, people who may be going through different struggles and different circumstances. And the fact that it's reiterated by this 10 of Pentacles, you have to remember the 10 of Pentacles comes from that 6 of Pentacles energy and is a higher version of that 6 of Pentacles, meaning it has more than enough to give. It not only just can give to these people who are unfortunate, it can now give to like a whole community of people. So people may feel like you are abundant in the amount that you give. And that is something that is unique and charming about you. And it may not even be something physical in a way. Like, I was just doing like a live session, and Pentacle kind of represents somebody giving someone their number or something along the lines of that. So it can be giving information. It can be giving truths. Like, who's an example? Like, I was just doing my moon world study. And in my moon world study, I mentioned how Jupiterian people like to be these dating gurus, right? So they are providing information in that way. Now, is it accurate? Who knows? Like, but they are people who are providing information and providing perspective and providing knowledge. That is why Jupiterian is the guru. And not only that, that is why it is about abundance, because they give not just physical items, but they give knowledge, they give information, they teach people. They don't just say, here you go, here's some fish. They teach you how to fish as well. That is why Jupiter is the great benefic. So people may feel like you just give so much. You are so thoughtful in your gestures. You are so thoughtful in your gift giving. And that is something unique and charming about you. You just have this positive reputation and this positive vibe when it comes to how you interact with others. You're always looking to see how you can give back, and maybe to some degree how you can improve. But really, when we have these cards laid out here, it's all about making sure not only are you having a good time, but the people around you are having good time. So you come with this sense of positivity. And if I'm shining, you're shining. If I'm glowing, you're glowing. If I'm winning, you're winning. Like, this is like the energy people feel from you. And that's what makes you very, very charming. One thing that we also see here, because we have Venus and Jupiter with the Empress here connecting to Venus, is that you are also somebody who is doubly smart. doubly smart. Just being funny. But being somebody who has a great deal of intelligence, because Venus is the guru and Jupiter is the guru. So they're both gurus. So something about you that is unique and charming is the fact that you just have a great deal of intellect, probably this large pool of intellect that people feel like they are pulling from, or they're just constantly learning when they're around you. And that is something that they're like, wow, like every time I talk to this person, I have a conversation with this person, I feel so enlightened. I feel like I've gained a fresh perspective. I feel like I'm talking to someone who has a brain and uses it and is able to analyze the situation and give their own thoughts and perspective on that situation. So they always feel like that you come from a unique thought process, and not only that, but it is highly informative, and you have like the facts, or at least a solid foundation or core to back it up. You know, so you're not communicating in a way that sounds like babble. You're drawing from conclusions from, you know, articles, or maybe something anecdotal, maybe studies, whatever the case may be, but it comes together in a message that makes sense. And it doesn't sound like nonsense, essentially. Maybe like how I sound like right now. But really, you do come across as highly intelligent, and that's very charming about you. So your intelligence is really pulling people in. It's part of your charm. It's part of what makes you so great and unique and amazing, because no one is thinking like you. No one is having the same sort of concoction of ideas as you. People are not being able to draw from the sources you draw and facilitate and push out the same conclusion. I follow like a few Jupiterian people, and one thing that I love about following Jupiterian people is that they always come up with their own theories and their own ideas of something. In fact, if you look at the history of tarot, tarot was kind of invented by a lot of Jupiterian people as well. They were heavily involved in the tarot. The Rider-Waite deck is, I think, drawn and crafted by a Mars ruled person, but I think the person who commissioned them to craft it might have been Jupiterian. So essentially, like the ideas, the concepts, the connecting to a different sort of above beyond reality can be very Jupiterian. We don't talk enough about how Jupiterian can connect to psychic abilities as well, especially placements if you are into Vedic astrology, like the nakshatra Vishaka. Vishaka is highly connected to the spiritual world, and I've also seen Punavarsu as well have to do with a lot of channeling. Some people say it's more so like channeling without being able to control it, but I've seen Punavarsu people being able to channel and control it as well. And in fact, they're kind of seen as like the, you know, therapist to the therapist, or the psychic master to the psychic. So psychics might go to somebody Jupiterian to seek advice because they have that guru energy. So at the end of the day, they're like a teacher no matter what field that they are in. So as I'm saying, even within like if you're spiritual practices and stuff, you may have like friends come to you and say, read my astrology chart, do my tarot cards. Like, what do you think of this situation? I need your advice on this. So you may have constantly people coming to your advice, and because you provide such solid advice, people are just feeling so enamored by you. I hope you made sense. I'm talking really fast. I'm sorry. It's like the Aries in me. I'm just like blah, 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 blah sometimes. Most of the time I talk slow though. I mean, you guys can look at my videos. I'm a slow talker most of the time, but when I'm like really kind of channeling something, I really got to get this energy out there. So you belong here. We got to talk about you belong here, because something that is very much charming. The first thing that comes to mind is like you belong here is kind of like your accent. You may have an accent that people may really like, the way that you talk, the way that you say things, the way that you speak. Like you may carry it around wherever you go. For example, I'm from the DMV. I have a DMV accent. So when I go places, like I went to vacation in Colorado and I went to a bar and I asked for a glass of water, right? So even you probably just heard it then, how I said water. I said it in a way that was like from the DMV, that as soon as people hear it, they're like, I know where you're from. So like whenever I go someplace that is not in the DMV and I say water, people are like, oh, are you from the DMV? Are you from this area? Are you from like, you know, DC, Maryland, Virginia, etc. like that? So, and I'm like, yeah, I'm from that, because they can hear my accent. So something like your accent becomes part of your charm. How you say certain words, the the energy of where you are from, maybe even not even just that, but the way you do things. You know how certain people, certain places have different cultures on how they do things. Like for example, you may have like a way that you cook things. Like Chicago has a deep dish pizza. New York has those big, large slices. And even sometimes the way you even eat certain things. Like if I go to, you know, Asian countries, I might be using chopsticks more. So being able to bring your own culture to wherever you go is a part of like your charm. So people are just like, oh man, this person is so Southern, or this person is so much like, they have like this, they're very strong within their traditions, wherever country you're from, whether that's like England, India, whatever the case may be. People are noticing those things about you, and they're just like, oh my gosh, that is just so the cutest thing. That is like such an amazing thing. I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you called it that. You know what I mean? Like when I came back from England, when I was studying abroad, I would always call like the dormitory rooms, I would always say, oh, my accommodation, right? Because it's the way that I was saying it there, right? I was calling it an accommodation. So even being able to call certain things like different different things, you know. Gosh, I wish there was a better way I could say that. Even being able to call certain things by a different name is part of your charm. And maybe even to some degree you may have a creative way of calling things or pronouncing things certain ways. Like, you, instead of saying like something I do, I might call library. Like, sorry, I call library. So it's just something I naturally do, unless I catch myself doing it and then I'm like, oh, I caught myself doing it. Let me say it the actual proper way. So that may be the case with you. You just have a charm and about the way that you say things or the way that you do things, because it's representative of who you are in your environment and your culture. And that is something to really be proud of, and not only be proud of, but people really like that about you. They like that you are bringing your own cultural background into things. And I love how that is also being highlighted by the fact that we have the Ten of Pentacles here, which is all about like family tradition and community and where you're from and things along the lines of that. So that is something that people really love about you, that you may have like a long history of family tradition that you are into, or maybe you're possibly really into your culture and you are happy to talk about your culture and where you're from and the things that like you like to do and the holidays you celebrate and your own traditions and things along the lines of that. And that's something that is uniquely charming towards you. And you also may be even very family oriented, because when we have this Four of Wands and we have this Ten of Pentacles, it does connect to family. And something about you makes people think, okay, this person like has like a very interesting family, or like a very exciting family, or a very unpredictable family, especially when we have the Four of Wands connected to Uranus and or the Fool here, which is like new beginnings and taking risk and being out there and exploring. So you may have a very like unusual family. Like, I've met people who may have like very diverse in terms of ethnicity or culture, or globally their family is spread out, or they may have family members that are like, you know, some of them are like scientists, some of them could be like in jail, some of them could be, you know, what am I looking for? Deep sea divers. Some of them could be artists. Like, it's just like a very wide spectrum and unusual characteristics. And sometimes it can have like a very wild and interesting family history. Not to say not everybody's family history is not exciting, but some people's family history is a little bit more exciting than others, right? So something about your family history may draw people in. Maybe you have some really great stories pertaining to your family, or even your family's lineage and their history and where they're from, and that becomes part of your charm as well. So something to do with possible like the stories that your family might tell. I'm not going to say storytelling in itself, but maybe storytelling in relating to your family, or even friends too, because we have this Two of Pentacles. And sometimes I get Two of Pentacles to represent like, you know, two peas in a pod, like friends type of dynamic. Okay. So I just want to throw that out there. And then also we do have you being somebody who is very flexible. And very easygoing. Like, these cards are very easygoing. There's another pile that is also similar, but I think you're not as easygoing as them. This is easygoing and being a little bit more relaxed, but there is more structure to you, pile number 4. But from what I'm seeing here is that people like that you are flexible, that you are someone who doesn't make a big deal. Like, if you say, hey, do you guys want to go to dinner? Do you want to go to this festival? Do you want to go to this concert? And you're just like, I don't care. I'm fine with it. Whatever you want to do, it's good by me. Or if you guys just want to stay home, we can stay home too, because we got this homebody energy here, which people may like about you, that you are somebody who they can like count on to just, they're like, oh, I already know where this person is. They're at home. Like, I can call them up. Like, they're not going to be super, super busy. Not to say that you don't have a life, because you do have an active life, but with these cards around, but essentially they're just like, I know you are reliable and you like to be in your cocoon and you like to enjoy your company and be in your home. And so they like that part of you. I was going somewhere else with the part I was saying before with how you can be stable in the way but also relaxed. There was somewhere else I was going with that, trying to remember. Yeah, both of these cards have to do, like, this has to do with play and being, like, having fun. And this also has to do with, like, celebration. And also, when we have the Empress here, the Empress connects to happiness. I always get this card to represent somebody just being, like, happy. So maybe your energy is just very happy and very positive, and that's part of your charm. Some people are just naturally peppy and something very excitable and just, like, upbeat. And that could be part of you. Or maybe that's, you are open to that sort of playful, like, energy in a way. And maybe you even have some sort of, like, playful sarcasm, or you just like telling jokes, or you like hanging out, or you just don't want to take things, like, super serious all the time. These cards can represent, like, wanting to joke around a little bit, okay? Just want to say that. And that's where I was going with you. You belong here. You belong here. 4 of Wands and 10 of Pentacles. It makes me feel like that you do have that homebody vibe, which is what I was kind of going into before, where you are somebody who can really just enjoy the company of your own home and find peace within your inner sanctuary. You don't have to go out and do a bunch of things, though you're willing to, because we have this Fool card here, which is, like, open to just taking risks and going out there and exploring. That's what the Fool card is all about. I mean, they're about to walk off this cliff here. So you do have that side of you, but at the same time, you're just like, you know what? Sometimes I just want to stay in. Sometimes I just want to stay in. Maybe I want to garden. Maybe I want to read a book. Maybe I want to paint. Maybe I want to take some pictures. Maybe I want to cook something. Maybe I want to clean. Some people like cleaning and relaxing. And that's something that's appealing towards them. And then one thing I want to say is, like, that's appealing for you, towards you, and that makes you very charming, is that you have a very open body language. People may notice that about you. You don't come across as closed off. Some pals before are like very, like, risky, and they're open to meeting new people, but the body language may be more closed. Don't tell them I said that. Said that though. But the body language may be more closed. But for this pal and this energy, the body language is a little bit more open and inviting, and that's going to be something that is unique and charming, that's drawing people in. I do want to keep that in mind. And I also want to say the Fool likes to joke around and have a good time. I mean, the Fool is a fool. Like, he's kind of like a jester. He likes to have fun. He likes to play games. He wants to just, like, kick it and say a bunch of silly things and just laugh a lot. You are known for your laugh. I just thought that. Oh my gosh. You have this unique, charming laugh that people like. That's what I was, like, trying to click. That's what clicked for me before that I skipped over. I'm trying to, like, list everything that's coming out of my brain, and it's like, ugh. So I think I'm gonna end it there, but you have a very unique and laugh that is very charming and appealing towards people. And also the Empress represents somebody feeling comfortable within their own skin, someone being able to feel confident in who they are and the things that they want out of life. And that's definitely going to be part of what makes you uniquely charming, because it seems to me that you are embracing taking care of yourself, embracing nurturing the things that you care about, whether that's people, yourself, or even your goals. People are drawn into that aspect of who you are, okay? As they're interested in the fact that you are somebody who is pushing towards the growth and who has a strong connection and pushing towards the things that you want to grow, is what I'm about to say, and who has a strong connection with maybe, like, nature and the environment. One thing I should have said before is I've seen a lot of Jupiterian people represent of, like, planting things and growing things. Like, you'll see a lot of Jupiterian people, like, plant things and love plants and things along the lines of that. So you could literally be into gardening, and people may be like, wow, I didn't know that you grew vegetables. I didn't know that you grew flowers, or whatever the case, planted flowers and kept them alive and things along the lines of that. That's something that is very much unique towards you, being able to grow and nourish something and take care of it, and as well as being able to empower others, okay? Empower others is what I want to say. And not only empower others, but empower yourself, because that's what the Empress is all about, okay? So I think I am going to end it there because I think we have like covered every aspect of what makes you charming. Well, maybe not every aspect. I mean, we do have like one thing I want to say, like the heart motif on the Empress. This thing represents, I believe it connects to compassion and giving and receiving love. And so something about you is kind of like you are very open to giving and receiving love. So if someone gives you a compliment, you say thank you. Or if you want to give a compliment back, you just put that compliment out there in the world and you don't hesitate. And people like that about you. You see something, you like it, you compliment it. If someone compliments you back, you say thank you so much. This is where I got this thing from, or I really appreciate that, et cetera, et cetera. So that is what I want to say, and I'll see you next time. Let me know if it resonates. You got to comment down below. Let me know if it resonates. And if this pile doesn't resonate, feel free to choose a different pile, or you could choose a different reader. Either way, I'm happy that you stopped by. Au revoir. Hey, pile number 5. Let's get started on your reading. Let's get into your unique charm that is drawing people in. We have the 6 of Pentacles. We have the 7 of Swords reversed. We have the Queen of Pentacles reversed. We have the Celebrate Your Wins. We have the Sun card. We have the 6 of Cups. And Saturn. All right. Let us get into this. So, what I see here is obviously you come across as somebody who is willing to help, but I feel like the energy is like you're willing to help if somebody asks you for help. This isn't generally like I'm willing to go out of my, I'm not saying you're not willing to go out your way, but you're more like I'm not going to go around asking who needs help. You know what I mean? That's when we get this Queen of Pentacles reversed and we get the 7 of Swords reversed. It's like, hey, you're open to being honest, you're open to, you know, extending a hand, you're open to like help those who may be in need, but they have to ask you for help. And I guess in a way about that, it's good because I think what the cards are saying here is that you have strong boundaries. Because when we have the Queen of Coins reversed and we're talking about a unique charm that draws people in, obviously we're talking about something positive. And a good thing that comes from you not like sort of going out of your way to offer help all the time is that people feel like you're somebody who's going to respect their boundaries and respect their independence is what I'm getting here. Like you're the type of person who you want people to be able to learn and solve things on their own. And then when you see that they can't do that, or if they come up to you and say, hey, can you help me with this? Then you're like, yeah, absolutely. I will offer you, you know, I will extend you a hand. I will assist you at this, etc. And things along the lines of that. And so people like that about you. And one thing I just realized, yeah, we got Saturn, the planet of boundaries. So it's really emphasizing that you have very strong boundaries when it comes to people. You don't overstep other people's boundaries too. In fact, your boundaries may be a little too strong, but for real, they're good because people feel respected. They feel like you're somebody who is not putting so much effort, so much focus when it comes to other people. You know how to obviously be a good person, offer anything if anybody needs help, etc. But for the most part, your focus is on self-development and making sure that you are doing well as a person. That's why we have this card, Celebrate Your Wins. The Queen of Pentacles, when she is reversed in this manner, one thing she's going to do is she's going to focus on that self-care. She's going to make sure she's not neglecting herself. She's thinking about her own well-being. She's keeping a positive state of mind to remind herself, oh, I need to take care of myself. I need to do this for myself. I need to make sure that I'm doing this right. Like the Queen of Pentacles reverse in a positive representation is all about self-development and personal growth, as well as taking accountability, which we get here from this Seven of Swords reversed. Seven of Swords upright is obviously about thievery, lies, deceit, kind of going your own way, like, not being able to trust anyone. But when we have it in its reverse position, it's like, okay, I make mistakes. Maybe I should actually, take accountability for when I make mistakes, or if I do something wrong, or, open up and be honest about, not realizing that something may be a certain way. For example, you know how in work they have these like ethics presentations and things along the lines of that. So one example from one of those things that I've seen many times over the years is people saying you have to take responsibility. Like, let's say you send an email to somebody accidentally and it may have some information that might have been important to the company or something along the lines of that. So you have to take accountability and ownership and say, oh yeah, I accidentally sent this email. I didn't mean to do that. Let me report that. Let me try to make sure that nothing else goes wrong, essentially, right? So this all becomes about taking accountability. Even if you didn't mean to do something wrong, people feel like that's something that's charming about you because you're willing and open to admit when you made a mistake, or even if you might have purposely done something wrong, you're like, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't right of me. So people like that sense of accountability that you have within yourself. How you're going to be honest. You're going to come clean about any mistakes or mishaps or, behaviors that were a little bit out of line, because none of us are perfect, right? But it's only a small group of people who are mature enough to take accountability for what they have done. So people really like that you feel that sense of security within yourself. And I would say, yes, accountability does have to do with insecurity. Not to go into a whole psychological thing, but generally people who can't take accountability for their actions, who can't take responsibility for their actions, feel they're generally insecure people, essentially. Because when they have to admit that they have flaws or that there's something wrong, it kind of makes them feel in a way that they are worthless, or that they aren't good enough, or they can't live up to this image of perfection, because in their mind they have to sort of be like a cut above the rest in order to feel validated in some sort of way. And when somebody is actively pointing out their flaws, they have this sort of like void of emptiness that they feel inside, where they're like, oh no, my perception of reality is not true. Maybe I'm not special. Maybe I'm not great. Maybe I'm da da da. And it goes into a spiral. It's a little bit of like narcissism. Like narcissists have this, but people who may have narcissistic traits, which to some degree everyone does have, but the degree of that they might have it is going to be different. So somebody who has highly narcissistic traits will have very low self-esteem. And thus they can't take responsibility or accountability for their actions because it would mean that they are flawed. So essentially, people are very glad that you're able to feel that sense of security, that you feel confident within yourself enough to know that if you take responsibility for your actions, that it doesn't define your worth. And that's really great. And another thing that we have here to sort of solidify this is the sun, because the sun definitely deals with feeling confident, feeling like a winner, feeling like somebody who can seize the day and take advantage of opportunities in front of them, someone who is vibrant, somebody who always tries to look at the big picture. And additionally, the sun is also very giving energy. I mean, the sun shines everywhere. We all need the sun, essentially. Very much so somebody who can just be like the life of the party and willing to take on a positive and uplifting perspective. And over time, generally in astrology, when you have sun ruled people, especially women in particular, maybe not so much men because of societal standards and things like that, but usually women will have to develop more sort of emotional what's the word? Intelligence. And so they will later in life sort of become more actualized and more, what's the word I want to look for? Self-aware, especially when it comes to managing tough feelings, managing things that are difficult to process emotionally, like taking a moment to just breathe and to yourself. People really feel like you're really great at taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally. And that draws them in because they feel like, oh, wow, this person comes across as very stable, very emotionally stable, very comforting type of energy, somebody who's going to try to remain positive. And like I mentioned before, you celebrate your wins. You celebrate when you do something good. You say, pat on the back to me. I'm doing a great job. I'm working hard. I'm doing the best that I can. And I am worth celebrating. I'm worth congratulating. I am worth doing good things for. People think it's great that you're taking the opportunity to make sure that you are appreciating yourself. You're not just going out there and celebrating others, which you do for sure, but you're also taking the time to give yourself that pat on the back. And that doesn't happen for everyone. Some people just say, you know what, we did a good job, keep going. You're like, no, this was a big deal. Let's take the time to say, I'm doing amazing. And it really shows, and people really are happy about that. They see that you are taking the time to go out there and do things that you enjoy or buy something nice for yourself. For example, for me, when I passed the CAPM, I'm trying to remember what I did. I think I took myself out to eat. Yeah, I took myself out to eat. I'm not going to wait on anyone. I studied very hard to pass that. And I think it's just good to take their time to just celebrate yourself and say, yeah, I studied, I passed, I did a great job. Let me congratulate myself for all of my hard work instead of saying, you know, on to the next task, on to the next grind. Another thing that we have here is that we have you being someone who appreciates all of the good things that came before them. So whether that's you having some sort of love for vintage, for example, you might just like really old music. I was just watching La La Land, and obviously the main character in La La Land has a strong appreciation for jazz, which is, gosh, why can't I remember his name? Whatever, the main actor, really famous. He was in The Notebook as well. Why can't I remember his name? Ryan Gosling. Oh my gosh. Ryan Gosling plays that person who's like in love with jazz. So people may feel like you have a strong appreciation for things that are from the past or a little bit more older. For, like I mentioned with the music, could be the style, could be fashion, could be movies, could be anything. I mean, but it can actually be something like non-tangible, like value systems from the past or something along the lines of that. For example, traditionally, if you go a little bit further back in American society, obviously we have a lot of issues if you go a little bit further back. But one thing that was more prevalent was a stronger sense of community that you may have had if you go a little bit further back in American history, especially before the Industrial Revolution. Before that, mostly there's a little bit more farmer type of mentality, which involves a more close-knit group and community. You can even see it, especially in the Black community, with a lot of churches where, you know, I know for me when growing up, church was like a huge thing. Not so much anymore. I'm not saying that church is not big anymore, but I'm saying there are less communities focused on that sort of close-knitness through the church. But you yourself may focus on having like strong community values or something along the lines of that. So your value system may even be traditional, and that may draw people in. And it can also mean that, for example, even if your value system isn't completely and totally traditional, you may have more like traditional practices. For example, one thing I do that I didn't even realize people thought was just like so old school was I like to make things from scratch. For example, I like to make bread from scratch. I like to make, if you make granola from scratch, butter from scratch. Like, I'm just like, I'll make things from scratch. So you may be like old school in the way that you choose to go about things. And another thing that I hear with the Sun card energy, especially with Saturn, both of these cards have to do with reviving, rejuvenation of things that were old or taken apart. So you may be somebody who looks at something that's falling apart and you're able to revitalize it. Or you may see something that has like some sort of issue or problem, and you're that person who comes in and tries to fix it instead of discard it or throw it away. This can have to do with somebody who is like, oh my gosh, this pair of jeans is like falling apart, and instead of throwing it away, you learn how to sew and you learn how to fix the seams or something along the lines of that. And so that's charming to you because people feel like you're somebody who is resourceful, you're someone who has a lot of skills, and you're also someone who is more practically minded and eco-friendly. I'm trying to think of the word for that. You have a more sustainable mindset, and that's drawing people in to you. I want to keep that in mind. These are some charms that I am thinking about that people are like, oh wow, this person really cares about the environment. They care about the people around them. They also take care of themselves. They're celebrating their wins. They have something traditional sort of mindset. And also the Six of Cups, both sixes have to do with taking responsibility, especially when it comes to others. Same with the Sun and Saturn. Both of these represent responsibility towards others, especially Saturn, because Saturn's at the top of the chart. And as I've said a billion times, and as other people have said a billion times, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And same with the Sun, it is connected to kingship. So they're always taking responsibility towards other people and taking them under their wings. So you may be taking care of other people, and people will like that. Like I said, for a lot of you, maybe I'm going to say 60% of you, you kind of need to be asked for help before you kind of like offer it, but you're going to give it. You're going to give that help. What we have here is, I think I already mentioned the confidence. We have here is kindness. Which I think I just described by you being offering to help people, being given, being giving, being genuine, being someone who is looking after others, being someone who congratulates others and genuinely feels excited for them when they have good things happening in their life, being someone who is authentic and willing to be open that they don't have all the answers and they can't do everything right all the time, being someone who's very, very passionate. Because one thing that we have about this Sun energy here is the Sun represents passion and care and love. And the thing that I see these two things about, they both connect to children. So you might actually be really good with children. Or maybe like you have your own children. I don't know. Maybe you have your own children. Maybe your children are cute and people think that's charming. I don't know. Maybe you really look like your child, like how some people will dress like their kids, or their kids really look like them, a lot like them, and so you see them together and you're like, oh my god, so cute, right? And that's a charming factor that comes into play. But then also this could just mean that you're really good with kids when we have this combination of cards here, especially with celebrate your wins. Like, it's almost like kids are excited to see you, come around you, things like that, spend time with you. I get these cards for this. Another thing, I think I already mentioned culinary skills, weirdly enough, because I'm seeing it like again, because I remembered Saturn. I would see Saturn for people being like home cooks. Not to say that they can't be actual cooks, but when we get into actual cooks, I see more Mars placements when we doing that, and maybe even K2 placements as well. I don't know why that K2 and Mars are like, well, actually I can see K2. Well, actually, yeah, I can see Mars too, because K2 and Mars are like, people say that K2 is like another form of Mars, kind of like a complementary entity to Mars. And I think it has to do with the passionate nature, the ability to cut through things, whether that is doing with the truth or literally cutting things, the precision and accuracy, which you can see with Mars people, especially if they are very focused on something. And the studiousness and the research is what you can see combination with these two. Also the impulsivity, but we're not getting into that. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but the culinary skills are coming up, especially you might be a really good home cook in particular, is what I get with the Saturn and Sun. It depends on the sun rule placement. If it's like Critica, they're usually good with skills, which is funny because Critica is known as the knife, but Critica is really good with being like a cook. What's that creator? Nar Smith. Like Nar Smith is Critica, so somebody Critica will be like that home cook, make from scratch type of energy. Saturnian here likes to make things from scratch as well. So people may feel like your cooking skills are pretty good in that way. Oh, one thing I just realized, like the enthusiasm. How did I forget that? Like, oh my gosh, celebrate your wins and the sun. They make somebody very enthusiastic. So something that could be charming about you is that you have this contagious enthusiasm when it comes to how you celebrate things, how you get excited about things, how when you see something you like, you're like almost childlike in a way, and people are just like, oh my gosh, this has to be great. You're like, oh my God, I just heard about this cool new restaurant. I just heard about this cool new bar. I just heard about this cool new golf course. I don't know, whatever the case may be. I just saw this amazing play. I just saw this amazing show. Like you get this enthusiasm and excitement about you that can be like contagious when it comes to things. Okay, I just want to throw that out there. And then when we have the planet Saturn, we talk about sacrifices for other people because that's what this planet wants you to do. Not only just sacrifices to yourself, but to others, which I think one of the first things that we mentioned comes across here very much so. And then also the sense of humor is what I want to mention here. I think, though, with the sense of humor, it's only kind of like a small knit crew that is kind of like seeing your humor and seeing the way your mind works in that way. And the only reason I say that is because we have the Queen of Pentacles, and the Queen of Pentacles reversed is a little bit more like tight knit about who she's going to let into her circle. And so what your friends or close family will find charming and like they'll really like about you is your humor. But not everyone gets to see it, and not everyone around you or gets it and receives it. But essentially those who are close to you really, really do enjoy your sense of humor and intellect as well. I do want to say that as I'm trying to think if I'm missing something other than that. Oh, I mean, we have the ability that you're going to take charge in a situation, that you're someone who, even if you don't know the answers, you're going to try to find them. You're going to admit when you don't know all the answers and you don't have them, and people like that. Honestly, people really love your honesty. That's something that's coming across too. And depending on the Saturnian placement, something like Uttara Bhadrapada, like if you have that placement, they can be very honest. Not all of them, but it is a trait that you'll see with a lot of Uttara Bhadrapada people, and you kind of get them in trouble sometimes. But when I see these two cards together, for at least 40% of you, we're going to have a strong sense of honesty that people find really refreshing. They're like, oh, this person's really straightforward and honest here when they have this going on with you. And then you may be really good at giving gifts and thoughtful gestures and really thinking of other people and trying to make sure that you're giving people things that they like. You're trying to cater your abilities to cater your knowledge of that person to get them a gift or to communicate with them in a way that is going to create stable and healthy relationships is something that I see here. And the thing that I love about this is when we have Saturn is one of those planets that grows stronger over time. Usually the malefics like Ketu, Mars, Saturn will grow very strong over time. The sun, not so much, but you know, it doesn't matter because we have Saturn in this reading as well. So when we have this combination of having this Saturnian energy, is it can represent someone who grows better with time, grows better with maturity, grows into somebody who can be a strong leader, who can be focused, who can be disciplined, who can set goals and achieve them. So people may like generally your sense of direction and your responsibility. And honestly, for those watching this reading, you should look where Saturn is in your chart, because that's the place people will find very charming about you. For example, if you have Saturn in your first house, This can also represent somebody who kind of looks better with time, in a way. Like, I'm just gonna put that out there. So your physical body, people may feel like just you grow into it. You know, you may grow up, when you're younger, maybe you look a little awkward, and then you grow up into like a beauty queen or something along the lines of that. Saturnian energy does that. If this is in somewhere like your 6th house, this can represent somebody who maybe starts off very low on the totem pole in terms of work, like being like a dishwasher, and then turning into like a restaurant owner or something like that. This can represent also being someone like, let's say this is in your 7th house. This will represent being in a lot of, from what I've seen from people in the 7th house, it can represent being in a lot of relationships with people who don't fully value you in the way that they should. But then over time, you set those boundaries, you gain more respect for yourself, and you ultimately will receive a partner who is going to focus on meeting your needs, and there's more balance within the relationship. And so people will like how you have learned from your trials and tribulations, and you apply that to where you are today. And so you're not repeating the same pattern. So people will find that charming about you, your growth. And I think that's all I want to give for you, pal number 5. I think we have covered the main things that are like charming towards people and what's really bringing them in. Your ability to focus, your ability to, one thing I want to say is like your face is very distinct. I don't know why that is popping out to me, but your face is very distinct. And so something about your physical face is very charming to people. That's the last thing I want to say here about the physical appearance. You may have a face that lights up when you smile, and generally with Saturnian people, they're going to have a very balanced facial structure. I did a study on Black Beauty, and the Saturnian people came up very popular when it came to Black Beauty, and it kind of represented what people liked about them is that their face was highly symmetrical, as well as being, this is for Uttara Bhadrapada people in particular, people liked that they were highly symmetrical and that they had like very exaggerated features in some cases. It's a little different for every Saturnian placement, but one thing that's common for amongst them is the symmetry. And for the Sun rule people, they came across like having a very, I guess, va-va-voom type of energy, very like sexy type of vibe. And so that can also be part of your charm. I do want to say that. And also celebrate your wins. You may have gone through some bodily transformations. When I see these cards, because the Sun obviously represents your appearance, the Sun, the Moon, and your Ascendant are connected to your appearance. So when we have Sun and Saturn in the same reading, this can represent an appearance which has transformed over time. Generally, Sun and Saturn people that I've seen, they tend to look a little bit more younger, weirdly enough, because you think Saturn will make people look a little bit older, but not really. Not with the Sun. When they come together, people tend to look a little bit more youthful or slightly younger than they are. Not to say that looking older is bad. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up because my camera's like going crazy. In American society, we value youth, so people will celebrate your youth or your beauty in that way, or being like, oh my gosh, you don't look, 50, or you don't look 40, you don't look 30, you don't look 25, you look 22, you instead of 30, you look 30, I don't know, 33 or something. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but people think you might look younger. And I'm going to wrap this up. Let me know if this resonates for you. I am very curious to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next time. And if this doesn't resonate, feel free to choose another pile, or you could choose another reader. Either way, thank you for stopping by. Au revoir.